I want to play for you some clips from an interview that Senate candidate in Arizona, Kari Lake, did. And interestingly, this recirculated on a clip of it recirculated on social media. And so I went and looked for it. And it's actually from the RNC, but it was so good to see this host actually conducting an interview like it should be conducted. We just talked about, before playing the first clip here, the Jonathan Karl interview with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and he said, given that Liz Cheney is not endorsing Trump because of his attempts to shred the Constitution in an attempt to block the peaceful transfer of power, what do you say to people's concerns about that? And then Sarah Huckabee Sanders just said Liz Cheney is terrible, but didn't answer the question at all. And then Jonathan Karl went, all right, cool, next question. That wasn't done here, which is why it was satisfying, because Kari Lake can get away with stuff like that too if you don't press her. The way she deserves to be interviewed is focusing on, as we say so much, the foundational, most consequential thing, which is her lies about democracy. That's what this host does. It's great to see.
Wasn't a good guy. She finally woke up and realized the news had been lying to her. People are waking up and they're recognizing how disgusting and fake the news is.
I'm sorry. I know you just started watching this, but quickly, almost worse than the lies she's going to tell in this and the disaster she is as a politician is the fact that this local news outlet has her so perfectly out of focus that it makes your eyes want to stab themselves.
Well, every question you've asked has been negative, Mark. Why do you hate President Trump so badly? Why do you hate his approach?
These are all truths.
What is true?
What is true? You've had one failed election lawsuit after another. Everything has been disproven, and yet you continue to file suit after suit, and you currently have a new suit in front of the Arizona Supreme Court.
I'm really glad that you don't care about election integrity, Mark.
Tell me where I'm wrong, Kari.
I'm glad that
I want to get to, I promise, the substance. And I don't mean to be mean to 12 News, but there's also an echo? Out of focus and an echo? Oh no. I'm sorry to podcast listeners. It's going to be a debacle in your ears, but here's more.
That you don't care about election integrity. I'm glad to know that you don't care about election.
But how many times do I need it to be disproven?
I'm telling you, we're continuing to fight because we want our future elections, including the one in November, to be run fairly. And I talk to the people every day. They don't tune in. I know where your ratings are. They're absolutely horrible. I don't know how you guys keep the lights on, Mark.
I
really don't.
Well,
I don't know how they pay
your
paycheck. It's probably way too much. But let me tell you this. The people of Arizona, I know them, and they are saying, thank you for fighting. If we can just get these judges to say to everybody running our elections, you've got to at least follow the law. We just want you to follow the election procedures manual and the law. That's all we want.
Kari, from where you sit.
It's good to know that you don't care about that, Mark. It's really good to know. You must be making a lot of money over there.
From where you sit, should President Biden step aside?
I think he's in a cognitive decline. That makes me very...
And this was during the RNC, so we've heard all of those things before. But it ends in a funny way where she says the producer's cutting her off. Oh, Gary. But first, so far, you got to let them in these sorts of settings. I know, otherwise the boss of this guy would get mad because no Republican's ever going to go in the air ever again if he interrupts too much. But it was good to see that he was stopping her and saying, yeah, I am fine with what you're saying about election integrity if you refer election integrity, but you're not, because everything that you're interested in talking about as it pertains to that subject is just a bunch of lies about the last election or your election and you saying I'm the rightful governor. And that is not election integrity. That's not you being concerned with it. That's just you being another election denying person. I won't say an insult at the end of that. Buffoon is what I was going to say. Oops. And my point about why this interview is so perfect is because what has happened is Kari Lake is really working, honestly, more effectively than Trump has been able to because he has less discipline. She's actually been working to pretend like she's not the crazy election denying version of herself because it seems like Ruben Gallego is going to electorally clean her clock. And the last poll we saw when she says Arizona, citizens they're with me. They're so with me. Yeah, except for whenever you lose again. Not so with you there. But because she's worried moderates are being alienated, she has stopped talking as much about the election stuff. So then in interviews, she gets away with going, no, all I want to talk about is this and this and this, things that she feels are advantageous to her. But if you don't respect the most basic tenet of democracy, which is our elections, based on her behavior with her last election and bolstering Trump's lies, shouldn't that be the only thing we ask about? And we're not going to let you get away with rebranding yourself. And as long as you're willing to keep defending these lies when we bring it up in an interview and you're not ready to denounce them, this is going to be all we're going to talk about. And that's what was awesome about this interviewer. Before getting to how it ended, and we'll see if we believe if she really got cut off by a producer, here is more of an out of focus Kari Lake with a terrible echo.
Let me
An
ask you.
assassination attempt against President Trump. The way they covered an assassination attempt, NBC News calling it loud noises, that the president fell to the ground and loud
Everyone,
noises.
Kari, called
It's
it fake.
absolutely.
Everyone called it loud noises. It wasn't just NBC, so let's not get that mistaken.
No, not everybody did. Most normal people understood what was happening.
But you talk about the fake news, and yet one election lawsuit after another has failed. At what point does your narrative become fake news with your lawsuit once again in front of the Arizona Supreme Court?
Well, Mark, I'm glad to know the truth about you, that you're okay with Election Day being run with equipment that doesn't work in 61% of polling locations
Kari,
and the
it's
wrong
been
ballots being
disproven
printed. I'm glad to know that you're
time
okay with
after
that. I promised the people of Arizona after that election where we had so many hundreds of thousands of people disenfranchised that I would fight and take my case all the way to the Arizona Supreme Court. And I have made good on that. It's at the Arizona Supreme Court, and we'll see what happens. All we're asking for, Mark, is the Supreme Court.
Oh my gosh, look at this guy's handwriting. That's gorgeous.
To take a look at what happened and make sure that election officials across our state follow the law. We don't want any advantage. We want the election officials to simply follow the law. And that's what we're asking the Supreme Court to look at. And if they decide that way, that's great. And we're going to fight to make sure that we have fair elections, because I certainly want my kids to have a country. And if we don't have elections that are run well, my kids and your kids will not be living in the free United States of America. They'll be living in a communist country.
Says you. All right. Let me ask you about J.D. Vance. It wasn't that long ago that
Yeah, I want. Nice. This is awesome. A lot of local news interviewers, some of them, I think, again, because it feels like it's not professional, they won't interject a little bit of, is the right word for this, sass? That's not sass, but personality or a quip. Responding to her going, says you, is perfect, because it's true. And again, she doesn't deserve to get to go talk about her lies about the border. We're going to stay on this. And whenever you ask her about it, just like Trump, she's not disciplined enough to do this really aggravating thing we hear other MAGA folks do, which is, I'm not looking backwards, I'm looking forwards, which doesn't make any sense when, if the things you were saying were true about the last one, you wouldn't move on from that, because that would be really big. You're just lying about it. And the fact that you know there's lies is why you're willing to move on from it. But she is, I think it's an ego thing. She gets challenged on this instead of going, all right, we disagree, let's move on. She has to keep pressing, and it leads her to saying, if our elections keep being stolen, we're going to be in a communist country. That version of Kari Lake is way more detrimental to her senatorial run than her sort of rebranded, totally fine with McCain Republicans, even though I told them to get out of the room the last time I ran for governor, sort of thing. And then here he does ask about one different thing, and then we'll look at the ending, which is about J.D. Vance's flip-flop.
he called Trump's campaign.
Oh boy, now listen to this, Mark.
Trump's campaign.
Mark,
Tell me if I'm wrong. Did he call
rather
it?
than just saying, what is
Did
my
he call
opinion
it
on J.D.
cultural?
Vance,
Did he
you're
call
trying
it
to
cultural
turn this into a
heroin?
hit piece.
Did he call President Trump cultural heroin? And if so, what changed along the way to make him Trump's vice presidential pick?
Wow, this is so interesting, Mark. Every question you ask is meant to be a negative question.
I think it's a fair question, Kari. You're
I
a
don't
former
know.
journalist. You would
you
ask
really-
this question. If a guy calls a
let me tell
presidential
you what I- let me
candidate
tell you-
cultural heroin, and then not long later is a vice presidential candidate, something changed. I'm asking you what
Yeah,
changed.
you know what? You know what? You know what changes, Mark, right now with people? I just talked to a woman today here in Milwaukee. She said for 10 years she came over to this country, became a legal immigrant, and was a Democrat. And she said,
and then that gets on to her saying it's all fake news. That is to blame for something. I don't know. But, you know, it's sometimes it feels like whenever they do this, wait, why don't you want to unite thing? Or why are you so negative? Mr. Local News Host, why are you so negative? Well, because you slapped us in the face, so we're asking why. Is that a negative question? And then they'll just smack us again, and then we say, why'd you do that? Why are you being so negative? Let's unite with each other. Okay, but stop slapping me in the face, and then we can do it. Because that's what it is, not literally, but with their attacks on the truth and our democracy and their demonization of people. Our questions are going to be sort of negative because you're like a negative movement. Kari, here's the end.
accepting a paycheck to lie to the people of Arizona.
Maybe
Thank
one
you
day
very
I'll
much.
come to my
It's great to
senses.
talk to you, Mark.
Yeah.
God
Thanks,
bless
Kari.
you.
We also reached out.
Oh, wait, no. Here, we need to see the full ending.
We're going to have to wrap it up
As a
now.
candidate for U.S. Senate, I want to ask you one
I'm
immigration
sorry, your
question.
your producer is wrapping me up. It was great to talk to you again, Mark. I hope you'll wake up and stop accepting a paycheck to lie to the people of Arizona.
Maybe
Thank
one
you
day
very
I'll
much.
come to my
It's great to
senses.
talk to you, Mark.
Yeah.
God
Thanks,
bless you.
Kari. We also reached.
Yeah. Yikes. Someone said we got to wrap up. Okay, I believe her. She was ready to go, though, knowing how poorly that was going. But that is kind of an interesting ending. And you might remember also at the RNC, she had this back and forth with an Australian reporter, which sometimes reporters from other countries, I don't know why in certain other countries, other reporters are way more willing to just be brutal, but in the best way. And that's what happened here.
You don't believe that Joe Biden won the election in
I
2020?
believe the election was run fraudulently.
And you refuse to concede in 2022 as well, your own contest. You
Well,
filed
obviously,
unsuccessful
you're sitting
lawsuits.
across the pond and you don't understand what's happened. And I'm not going to argue
You were
about it with somebody.
sued for defamation.
Yeah, because this is how corrupt the system is. I pointed out how they worked our elections.
You lied about a top Arizona election official. You defamed him. You falsely accused him of injecting 30,000 illegal votes into machines, intentionally misprinting
Yep.
ballots.
Yep.
Do you
It
stand
happened.
by those
Yes,
claims?
it happened.
Would you like to repeat them on air now?
It happened.
You
No,
think
you know what?
that he intentionally misprinted ballots?
If you
he
would-
sued you for this.
Yes, I know. I'm in the middle of it right now. It's lawfare.
And he
guess
said
what?
that
Guess
you
what?
had turned his life upside down. He said you'd made him the
Listen,
target of threats of
Emily,
violence and
Emily,
death.
I'm in the middle of a lawsuit and I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to work. When you're in the middle of a lawsuit, you don't want to talk about it, okay? We talk about it in court. That's where we talk about it. I feel confident that I've spoken the truth. But you know what?
You
I'm not-
made him the target of violence and death. You saw what happened on the stage on Saturday night. You heard Donald Trump say, let's lower the temperature. Do you accept the part you played in inflaming the political
I've never,
rhetoric
no.
in this country?
You are just part of the fake news and you're lying. You don't know a damn thing about Arizona. You don't know one thing about our election. And you sit there with a smirk on your face. You're sitting over in England, in the UK, in a country that's being destroyed. In a country that's being destroyed.
I guess I'm just asking
And I really don't-
what it says
you know
about
what,
the
this is the
Republican
last
Party.
question.
That they
This
need
is
to
the- this
lie,
is the
to
last
intimidate, to threaten, because you don't believe you can win at the ballot box. Why would you need to do that?
You are just a sad case of a human being, and I'm so sorry for you. I'm sorry that you bought into the propaganda. I hope that you'll look in the
I'm too much of a softie to use that phrase, but some of y'all got to use that. When you're in an argument with someone, just go, you're a sad case of a human being. That's just brutal. That's like one step away from you're a waste of oxygen. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, you're a sad case of a human being. Not you're a sad case of a reporter or you're a sad case of a political pundit. You're a sad case of our species. Okay? That's crazy. But yeah, that's how she reacts when she's confronted with the truth. I love Trump at the NABJ. Here, Kari Lake, you know you're doing something wrong with your life, your sad case of a life, and with your political journey. If someone just reading to you things you've done and said factually, you said this about someone, you said this about someone, makes you so angry. That maybe you're living your life wrong, Kari. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Support the show by clicking the join button below and click the link in the description of this video to donate to Kamala Harris's campaign.